Global circular economy market size will be close to $4.5 trillion. Per capita generation of waste, India is not as high as the developed countries. India has now become one of the leading nations to adopt a very dynamic circular economy policy. There are going to be a huge number of jobs that are going to be created in the circular economy space. I hope this podcast reaches millions of people. So whoever is watching this, it's a great field. So do give it a thought.
India generates approximately 62 million tons of waste annually, with projections showing this figure could reach 165 million tons by 2030 due to rapid economic growth. Only around 70% of this waste is currently collected, with a significant portion still ending up in landfills, highlighting the need for improved waste management and circular economy practices in the country. To know more about the potential of this field, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Abhishek Agashe, who is the founder and CEO of Elima. This company offers seamless solution for reuse, refurbishing, and recycling. Hi, Abhishek. I welcome you to the Crazy Careers podcast. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
It's lovely to be here and speak to you today. Thank you so much for having me.
So, before we begin, I would like to know about yourself a little bit and also exactly the work that you do.
So, just a quick background. So, I'm originally born and brought up in Pune. Now, I live in Hyderabad and come from a typical Marathi household. So, a lot of focus on education. My family is also, pretty much all are engineers or doctors or PhDs. So, I was born and brought up like that. Did my engineering, did my BTech in electronics from VIT in Pune. After which, I went and worked with an NGO for a while. We were designing smokeless cooking devices for women in villages to get them to cook off of, firewood, because that's very harmful to you. Following that, I went to the UK. I did my master's in energy conversion systems. I was always interested in renewable energy. In my third or fourth year of college, I realized that climate and climate tech is going to be the future of the world, because that's going to be the need of the hour. And then when I went to the UK, I got exposed to living in a developed country, saw the systems there, realized that, what waste management actually is and how a clean built environment can, really boost productivity and, overall health and well-being of people. And talking to a lot of people, Indians who had immigrated there, I realized that, that was the built environment was one of the key reasons why people move there. They call it quality of life, but it's basically about the built environment. So got interested in that, did my thesis in my master's on sustainable waste management, energy generation. So got interested, came back to India around 2016, realized that, by the time smartphone penetration had started happening quite a lot in the country and digitalization had started happening. So in my research, I realized that, electronics and plastics, and this is going to be the major waste streams that are going to come out in the future. And, they're a treasure trove of resources as well. So can we do something to help in the post-digitalization of these assets, because the obsolescence of the device is also becoming quicker and quicker day by day. So that is what got me started on this journey, and been in this space for the last 7 years now, 2017, 8 years now. And that's been my career progression from, after college till today.
So you know what, maybe 2 years or 3 years back from now, I'm talking about the mass population. So they will not understand okay, waste management also can be a potential area to explore. Also, I mean, circular economy is also related to it and it is something new. So given your experience in the same field, would you please explain us in simple words what circular economy is all about?
So actually, if you look at it, right, so waste management and circular economy are actually opposite concepts of each other. So circular economy as a concept dictates that circular is basically like a macro container term used especially in economics, right? It's basically about driving materials in a closed loop. But if you look at the implementation of it, that basically means that the products or the materials that we use should be designed, manufactured, used, and reused in such a way that waste generation itself goes out of the system, right? So you don't basically, you're basically creating regenerative systems, right? Don't generate waste. So it basically also, on a broader, very layman terms, it's like biomimicry, right? If you look at nature doesn't produce waste, right? In a way, whatever the waste is a very human concept, right? That we've termed it as waste. But for nature, anything that reaches its end of life, right? Whether it's what that can be anything, right? It basically becomes a feedstock for life again in some form or the other, right? And it has some purpose that it serves. So that is basically what circular economy is about. So waste management is more about handling things that we consider as waste. And what we consider as waste is also a very psychological thing. That basically what we think is that whatever in our mind, right, the value of a product or a material when it diminishes to a certain extent, we think that it becomes waste, right? So that is the basic concept. So circular economy is basically creating closed loop supply chains, right from the concept of designing of a product, right, to the different stages that the product follows in its life cycle, and then making sure that all the components, materials that are used to manufacture that product can be used to manufacture the same product, an equivalent product, or something higher when it reaches its either end of life or its end of use. So that basically is what circular economy is all about.
So, how big is this market of waste management and circular economy globally and also in India?
The market sizing is very huge because you're basically talking about all the materials that we consume. So if you look at humanity on a global scale, we are actually consuming somewhere between 90 to 100 billion tons of materials every year. That's the amount of consumption that we do across. So in terms of a number value, in terms of money value, global circular economy market size will be close to 4.5 trillion, right? And if you look at India specifically, our market size is somewhere around 218, 120 billion.
Where does India stand in worldwide in the generation of waste? I'm not talking about waste management, but generating waste. So where does India stand in worldwide?
Are one of the larger waste generators, and that's a sheer correlation to the population that we have, right? But if you look at the per capita generation of waste, right, India is not as high as the developed countries because the concept of using more and consuming more is more in developed countries, right? And it also has to do with the purchasing power of people, right? Because the more money you have, the more disposable income you have, you purchase more. So the even waste demography has there is a demography even in waste. So if you look at the developed countries, they generate more of dry waste. When I say dry, I'm talking about non-organic waste. And then if you look at India today, 60 to 70% of the waste that we generate is primarily organic. It's primarily waste or food related waste. And it's not only post consumption. When I say post consumption, I mean after we consume something and we generate waste. But even our supply chains are very inefficient. If you look at our agri supply chain, right, there is a lot of wastage. 20 to 30% of the products never even reach the market, right, because of inefficiencies in the supply chain. So waste is being generated at multiple points within the value chain in every domain. But yeah, if you look at India, we are generating close to 62 million tons of waste a year. We are projected to grow even higher. And, as our consumption increases, as our per capita increases, the waste generation will keep growing. And then slowly, we will also follow the trajectory of moving towards more of dry waste as compared to organic waste.
So, what is your thought about the government initiative in waste management?
So my entire journey began because of government intervention in this space. So it's actually a very good sign that entrepreneurship driven out of policy decisions made by the government can actually spur entrepreneurship in any field. So my journey or my confidence to come back to India and start something in this space, which is predominantly, it's not a very lucrative space, right? If you look at it, especially back in 2016, 2017, people used to joke ki kachra state aa gaya, like that. It was predominantly ki it's a very murky business, it's a very dirty business, and nobody would want to dirty their hands in waste management and things like that. But when our current government, came to power in 2014, 2015, they started the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. India has now become one of the leading nations to adopt very dynamic circular economy policies. We have the extended producer responsibility getting into reuse content policy. There is a critical minerals policy now that has been launched by the government. So, there is a lot of impetus to startups, companies to, enter this space to spur entrepreneurship. And that I feel the government is doing a great job. At the macro level, the kind of decisions that are being taken are like very, very forward thinking. We are like one of the few countries to adopt policies which even some of the developed countries haven't adopted. And our governments, there is a clear guideline not only related to waste and circular economy, but in general related to climate and climate tech that, we are going to be one of the leaders in energy transition and things like that. So, government supporting initiatives and new industries is very, very critical. And I think we are doing a very good job at that.
So, do you think that waste management segment has potential to create jobs for the masses?
Absolutely. If you look at the waste management in general, there are formal jobs and then there are informal jobs also, right? So if you look at the waste pickers on the street, or if you look at a net uh, job creation scenario, nearly 1% of our population, you can say, is engaged in waste management activities. So it has always been a sector that has created a lot of jobs. And because it is a sector, not only waste management, even circular economy, where we deal with materials and materials in a country like India in a very decentralized form of, like in a very decentralized way, it has the potential to create a huge number of jobs, and it has already been creating a huge number of jobs. Now, what we will see going ahead in the future is the formalization of the jobs from the informal sector. So there is a very large need of good human resource coming into this field right now, that it is a very attractive field. And to iterate the point, you can see, you can see change happening. So IIT Hyderabad, Indian Institute of Technology Hyderabad, has started a course. There is a MTech course on e-waste management and e-waste recycling. So now when, large institutes, well-renowned institutes start formulating courses and career paths around field, that's when you know that the field has reached some level of inflection point, when the formal workforce is now looking to enter this field. So I think there is a huge potential for people to come into this industry. So there are a lot of jobs that can be created, and it's not only related to waste management. Like I said, circular economy is it starts right from conceptualization of a product or a material right up to its end, its first use, second use, third use, and then final disposal, recycling, compounding, getting it back into the thing. So there are going to be a huge number of jobs that are going to be created in the circular economy space.
And also, I feel that it has to be implemented in school curriculum as well. It should be part of our life, and it is in school curriculum, but it has to be implemented more, and it should be part of life and a sense of responsibility for any kid who is growing up. That management is a responsibility, and then only it can get adapted to job creations and like.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
see, I'm not ashamed to say this because all of us have done it. But if you look at my life 15 years ago, or 12 years ago, I have also thrown plastic bags and plastic bottles from the car when we were going on the highway. Everyone has done that. We can't deny. But now you will not see anybody doing it, right? Or very, very few people. And if you see somebody doing it, there might be some good Samaritan on the road who might just stop that person and ask him to pick it up or reprimand them, right? So that psychological change is happening. But we have to go a little one layer below that, and we have to see that why are people throwing waste on the road, for example, right? Nobody likes to live in a dirty environment, right? And unfortunately, what happens is, and I call this environmental racism a little bit, is that as you go higher in the society class, or if you move towards areas which have middle class, upper middle class people living there, usually you will find that those areas are very clean, and all of the dump yards are moved to the boundaries of the cities in lower income areas and things like that. So we are also not giving them a chance to get out of the system. And then again, I think it's a matter of convenience, right? Like, why does somebody fundamentally throw chips packet on the street as opposed to putting it in his pocket and throwing it in a dustbin? Is because it's very inconvenient to do that, right? So convenience, humans always prefer convenience. As an entrepreneur in this space, or as a government, or as a society at large, we need to think around building systems, right? That ease the convenience of waste disposal for the normal citizen. That combined with sensitizing them through school programs and things like that, we do a lot of social impact activities. We have an entire division dedicated to social impact and creating awareness and things like that. And even the government is doing a good job. So that sensitization needs to happen at school, or it needs to happen at home, because kids first learn at home. So if you see their parents, their cousins, their brothers, sisters not throwing waste on the street, it naturally becomes a habit. You don't really need to tell them whether this is right or wrong, right? It becomes a natural habit, what we say muscle memory. That is what we need to do. And yes, there has to be a very large scale sensitization that needs to happen, and sensitization combined with convenience, and then explaining to people what is the benefit of doing it. It's not only about clean environment, right? Not living in a clean environment, but it's also about what happens post you throw that piece of plastic or paper or glass or whatever, and how it affects the flora and fauna around us. Because see, for us, for humans, we have built technology where we can bypass most of the natural things that happen around us, right? Like, for example, we contaminate water bodies. We can install RO filters at home. We have STP plants in our society. We will make sure that we always drink clean water. But what happens to the flora and fauna around you? What happens to the animals around you? They don't have ROs. They don't have dustbins, right? So you are basically killing the flora and fauna. And once you destroy one part of the natural ecosystem or biological ecosystem, it will come and haunt the entire humanity or the entire world, right? Butterfly effect, right? You do one small thing and then it resonates throughout the ecosystem.
They say like, if you want to bring some change in the society, you instill that in the kids of the society. Obviously, they are the next generation. So I have a 3-year-old daughter. So I once told her that you throw all the waste in the dustbin. So whenever we go on the road also and we see some polythene bags or somewhere, then she used to tell me, "Mama, ये किसने गिराया? मैं तो डस्टबिन में ही डालती हूँ." So we don't have, but then she learned that. So that's the right time to teach them like where we have to dispose our waste.
You know, telling children why is also important. Once they understand the why of anything, right, then it automatically makes them believe that this is the right thing. Just telling somebody that yes, this is what you need to do, but telling them why you need to do it, right? That will cause like even more impact. And then your daughter, what she's doing now, if she sees somebody throwing something, she will be that citizen who will go and tell them ki yaar mat feko, dustbin mein feko, mujhe de do, right? So it's a network effect. So one child with good values can impact her entire school, class, and then it's just a network effect, right? It keeps growing, growing, growing. So yeah, it's a great thing to know that kids are thinking like this.
So there is a famous saying that when everyone is digging gold, sell shovel. So do you think that the world is actually going mad for solar, photovoltaics, and also semiconductor? One is going for the manufacturing side of it. So there is a huge potential to work on the waste management of solar cells and maybe like the semiconductors and other electronic gadgets. There is a huge potential in that area.
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said, right? So, see, it's one thing is again coming back to my circular economy principle and the job creation aspect of it, right? So, today, if you look at the world in general, we are moving towards. I personally believe that materials and material science is going to be right up there with AI and biotech and things like that, which is going to really shape how humans use, consume, and manufacture things, right? So, as a career in circular economy, and like you rightly said, like when the world is digging for gold, you build shovels, right? So there is potential to even get into the higher tier aspect of that in terms of the material sciences and research on design and implementation. Because circularity, if it is not inbuilt in the design of the product or the materials that you're using are circular in nature, right? Then the bottom half of it, which is the post-consumer or post-use cycle of it, becomes very hard and inefficient. So there are going to be jobs that are going to be created and a lot of ancillary industries related to this. So it's not only about companies who manufacture solar or companies who recycle solar. It's also going to be about the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers of these panels. What kind of materials are used to manufacture these panels? How can we scale using materials that are 100% recyclable? How can we innovate on a product which is easy to refurbish or disassemble? So design is going to be a critical thing. Material science is going to be a critical thing. So coming up with alloys, coming up with types of materials that can be recycled infinitely. And then obviously once it reaches its end of use, because at some point everything reaches its end of use, right? Even you. So death is the only assured thing for anything that comes into the world, right? So a death of a product then will create opportunities in the entire recycling and circular economy space. But like you said, a lot of ancillary industries will now start developing who add value right from material design, conceptualization, material science, logistics, reverse logistics, financing. Circular economy is a very finance intensive play. There's a lot of working capital that is required. You need a lot of capital for doing R&D in materials, right? So the entire capital industry will grow around it. So even if you're from a different profession where you're already joined the workforce, say you've done your finance or you've done your PhD in materials, right? Everyone will have a role to play in circular economy, and there will be a lot of careers that will come around this industry.
Right. How has been your journey so far as an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneurship is hard, right? Like it's very, very hard. So I also struggled quite a lot in my initial years. It's been the last 1 or 2 years that we've been stabilized to a point where even we are able to take some salaries, right? But for the most part of my 7, 8 year journey, it's been predominantly being broke all the time. And it's true for everybody who starts off, right? So all the cliches that people say about entrepreneurship, तो आपको टैक्सेशन भी देखना है, आपको एचआर भी देखना है, आपको ऑफिस भी ढूंढना है, आपको तो लाइक रियल एस्टेट ढूंढना है आपके प्लान के लिए. और for digital businesses might be different challenges, but then you have to just believe that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And but as an entrepreneur, I would also say that you need to be very pragmatic, right? You have to be a eternal optimist, right, with a hint of realism. Because if you feel that something is not working and the market is telling you that something is not working, right, you might have made a product which is way ahead of its time, or you've made a product which you think is great, because as a founder, you'll always love the service or the product that you're building. But what is the real world feedback, right? Is it being accepted even at a small scale? Is someone willing to pay for this, right? Will I be able to generate profit, right, at some point of time? And what is my future in this industry? Where is the industry going? So there are a lot of times what happens is that you might build something for years and years and years, and then even a sudden thing like a policy change can come and kill your business, right? So you have to be pragmatic at that. So entrepreneurship, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur at heart, right? But you have to be pragmatic about the industry that you're building. So if you feel at some point कि यार ये नहीं चल रहा है, या मार्केट मुझे बोल रहा है कि यार मेरा प्रोडक्ट एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है, right? Then you need to take. You can't be an eternal optimist and say मैं यही करता रहूंगा 15 साल, but मुझे traction. You have to be pragmatic. You have to be realistic. You can pivot. You can do something else, whatever. But you have to be a realist also, along with being an optimist. But it's a great thing. Also, what I feel is, see, entrepreneurship को बहुत ज़्यादा आजकल hype कर दिया है, right? Like everyone wants to become an entrepreneur, and it's a very rosy kind of a thing. But I would say कि यार doing a job, right? See, पहले क्या था, like if I had to go back, say 20, 30, 40 years, uh, very few people used to start businesses, right? And it was also a function of a lot of things. Maybe you came from a business family, या आपका inkling था, या आपको education में नहीं था ज़्यादा interest, तो आपने business की ज़्यादा कर लिया, like that. And there was a very large delta in terms of the money that people could make who did business as opposed to somebody who did jobs. But today that thing has flipped. Today, if you look at the job scenario in the country also, the salaries that you're getting are very high. I mean, आप अगर 3-4 लाख रुपए महीने की salary कमा रहे हो, like if you become an entrepreneur, you're going to take at least 10 years to reach that level, right? Yes, and that is if you succeed. You might spend 7 or 8 years and then your business might fail also. So if you're chasing that level of delta कि हाँ मैं पैसे के लिए ये कर रहा हूँ, सिर्फ पैसे के लिए, money is important. Everyone wants money, right? And there's no shame in accepting that. I feel everyone should be true to themselves and say कि yeah, man, entrepreneurship, one part of it is the passion to solve some problem in the world, and then one part of it is also to secure my financial future. And I feel that there is a larger delta in becoming an entrepreneur, and I can earn more money. So I'm doing it, and that's the truth. But then doing a job is also not bad at all now, because you're actually making a lot more money if you're actually doing a job as compared to entrepreneurship, especially for the first 5 to 10 years. It's a mixed bag. So my journey has also been very mixed. I never did a formal job because I didn't like. I mean, I'm not somebody who's well suited for like corporate jobs and things like that. Is what I feel like. That's my personality. So I've always been an entrepreneur. So I don't know the other side of this thing. So if I would have done a job for a long time, then moved to entrepreneurship, maybe I would have been able to compare much better. But I mean, if you're passionate about something, you want to solve some real world problem, you feel that you're ready to put in and sacrifice for 5, 10 years with no signs कि हाँ ये successful होगा ही. Because if you're working towards something and you know कि ये 100% to success है ही, right? It's just a question of time, right? So if the variable is only time and success is guaranteed, if you're looking for that, then entrepreneurship is not the thing. Because there are a lot of variables. But yes, if you are looking for that delta in your personal life, you're looking for getting some amount of freedom at a later stage in life, solving some problems, creating employment, then definitely entrepreneurship is what you should get into. And that is what got me also into this. So I've been in the same industry for 10 years, and I plan to be in the same industry for the next 50 years also. So, that kind of, you should love the sector that much.
The risk that we are taking in life, whether you're going for a job or entrepreneurship, it has to be very calculated. Though people don't say that, then risk has to be calculated so that you can sustain for a certain amount of time. For example, if that entrepreneurship thing is not working for you, you have a plan B. You should have plan A, plan B, plan C in your life. It cannot happen like every time, like you go all way and you think, okay, entrepreneurship is just like I have an idea and I just want to implement it, but it comes as a package. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to take care of all the departments or all the like work that you have on your table. So that has to be there.
प्लान ए प्लान बी आई डोंट बिलीव बिकॉज इंडिया में मुझे वही लगता है कि लोग प्लान बी पे ज्यादा फोकस करते हैं जब उनके पास प्लान ए ही नहीं होता. So if you look at way we are brought up also, right? Every time anybody will tell you is, see, the entire system I believe is designed to help you make money, and that's what you are taught from. कि अच्छे स्कूल में भेजो, right? Study well. Why do you study well? It's not because no one comes and says कि यार you're learning so much, you're such a learned person. कि 10th में यार अच्छा करो तो IIT में घुस जाओ 12th के बाद. IIT नहीं करोगे बन जाओ इंजीनियर. Now obviously things are changing, but you're ingrained कि you will do well in life. You will do well in life. अभी पढ़ाई करोगे तो बाद में you will do well in life. You will be able to afford this. You will be able to afford that. So the entire ecosystem is designed around helping you, is to push you towards making money. And then if you are courageous enough to go and tell the society that I want to do something else, 99% people will say कि यार तू पहले ये कर ले, so you will have a backup option to do that. यार मुझे जो करना है वही मुझे पता नहीं है तो मैं बैकअप क्रिएट करके क्या मान के चलो मैं डॉक्टर बन भी गया. I don't want to practice medicine ever. Then what's the point of me spending 8-10 years of my life going through that cycle? And then at the end of 12 years, realizing that this is not something that I want, right? So today I feel that you should not segment it as plan A, plan B, plan C. I think today we are in a world where it's very easy to be exposed to a lot of things in life. So I think as children or as parents also, you should help your child get exposed to a lot of things in life. Don't keep them in that cocoon ki yaar, education or studying art is the only way to succeed. Yes, for 90% of the people, education is the only way or one of the best ways to break out of the poverty cycle. And you need to have some level of education, a formal or whatever education I'm talking about, to help you become a citizen and have enough knowledge to take better decisions. I think education is about helping you take better decisions. Like you said, calculated risk. Pay risk, but you see, you cannot quantify risk. When you're becoming an entrepreneur, you have an idea and you want it to succeed, you can start quantifying it later when you start doing market research and you can, put numbers. But saying कि यार ये तो बहुत risky है, ये कम risky है, see, adjectives में जब बात करते हैं, तो no, there is no way to define it. You should be able to quantify the risk. And if you can't quantify the risk, either you are on to something very big, right? Which will like change the world, or then it's so meager that it's not worth your time. So try to quantify the risk. Don't try to calculate it. बाद में calculate कर लेना. At least quantify.
Yes. At least जब मतलब there is a phase कि आप नीचे गिर रहे हो. At least you don't fall on the floor. This इतना भी ज्यादा नहीं गिर लिया कि आप एकदम से fall कर रहे हो. You should have that. मतलब मेरा plan B का कहने का मतलब था कि अगर जैसे आपने बताया था कि अगर एक आपने आइडिया के entrepreneurship journey start किया and then if that is not working, maybe the time is not right or maybe the market fit is not coming up और जो भी है, then you should have that courage कि आप उसको pivot करो. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब पूरा आपने जो आइडिया ले लिया आप उसी पे करते रहो until like
correct, like I said,
studied.
right? Like you have to be very pragmatic with what you're working on, right? And that's true for anything, and especially now when things are changing so fast. हमें engineering में वो Moore's law सिखाते हैं, right? Everything goes and changes every couple of years. Now that has come down to couple of months. Sometimes it will come down to couple of weeks. Things are changing and evolving so fast that you have to be pragmatic about what you're doing. But yes, again, I think if you're inherently a hard worker, if you're inherently a smart person, and when I say smart, I'm not talking about grades and marks and all. Inherently a smart person who's willing to work hard. Even if you try entrepreneurship, you fail. Today, I think the entire ecosystem of startups or even older companies is that they will still accept you in the workforce because the intent to work is there. So if your intent to work is there, you will never die hungry, right? Doesn't matter what education, qualification, what background or society. You should have that willingness to learn, work hard, and then you will find a way to succeed.
That's true. So how you keep yourself motivated day in, day out?
यार मैं तो अभी I have stopped thinking only about motivation and all of that. I mean, क्या होता है ना कि when you Of course, there are days when, there are still many days where I feel कि यार why am I doing this? I still feel that like why am I doing this? I should बस हो गया यार अब like let's stop and things like that. I think every time I felt when I've had like the worst days of my life in terms of like work, usually 24 to 48 hours में कुछ अच्छा हो जाता है. That has been a cycle. Like there have been times when we haven't had money to pay rent for the office, and every entrepreneur same, and suddenly एक payment आ जाएगा, you get a breather, like and then when that happens, some small things will keep happening, and then I've just started telling myself one thing. I'm like, boss, you are completely physically and mentally capable, right, in terms of functioning. I have been born into a great society where great family where even though we are not rich, but I don't have to worry about sending money to my parents, right? I don't need to worry about system, and there are a lot of people who don't have that and who still succeed and who are still working hard, right? So they are very privileged to have all of this. So then what is the excuse? Just because things got hard, right? So yeah, there are times when I feel like quitting. There are times when I also feel lazy कि यार मुझे जाना नहीं है ऑफिस. 2-3 महीने में एक दिन ऐसा लगता है कि यार I just don't want to go to office. I'm too bored. I just want to sit and relax and watch Netflix on a Monday the whole day. I do that now because there's no point just pushing yourself and getting somewhere and then just giving a half-assed performance and then coming back, right? So there's no clear. If there was a formula for keeping yourself motivated and formula for success, then तो everyone would have been successful. तो ये सब होते ही रहता है. You shouldn't think about it too much. You will feel depressed. You will feel sad. You will feel happy. You will feel not working. Don't work that day. इतना कुछ नहीं होगा अगर आपने एक दिन काम नहीं कर लिया. So I'm like that कि if I'm not feeling up to it, I don't work. हाँ, कभी कोई मोटिवेशनल मूवी देख लेता हूँ मैं. Now so much motivational content that you watch something, then you feel energized. You feel कि यार मैं भी कर ये इसने किया तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. And then next day you get up and you get back to work. That's it.
Yeah, right. That works for me as well. Like कोई ऐसा मतलब low phase है, then I watch a motivational movie. So it works for me because I could relate myself to that जो भी movie में चल रहा है. I could relate myself and then मुझे लगता है कि हाँ सब ठीक.
बिल्कुल. So whatever it is, right? External stimulus. हमको if we feel happy, we eat ice cream just like that. This is ice cream for the brain. So you watch something, you feel nice about it, and then you get on with your life. I think we overthink also a lot. So I'm a big overthinker. Like I have had that. It's an ingrained quality. So I'm trying to get over that. कि यार सोचो ही मत, just go with the flow. कुछ नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा और like क्या हो सकता है. So now I'm like कि क्या ही हो सकता है. So I just go with that.
So, if given a chance, जो भी government ने initiative लिया है on waste management, what are the changes that you would like to bring to make it more significant and reaching out to more and more people on that initiative?
This is a newer industry, right? And whenever a newer industry has to develop and develop at scale, you need certain incentives, you can say, from the government. And it has happened across sectors. If you look at solar also, right? There was if you look at the per kilowatt price over the last 10 years, it's dropping significantly, right? Nearly 20%, 30% year on year सस्ता होते जा रहा है solar. There are subsidies on that, right? So, you need financial incentives, you need policy incentives, and then you need stability in policy. So what the one thing that I want like more attention from the government is that whatever policies are being implemented today for the circular economy or waste management industries, it should be more stable. So if the policies keep changing from time to time, it becomes very difficult for businesses to continuously adapt to newer policy, right? Whether it's a waste generator or whether it is companies like us who are managing waste. Also, what happens is when there is stability in policy, right, then you can attract a lot of investment also. Because if you're looking to attract investment, no investor would like to invest in a sector or a company that is volatile. कि मैंने आज इन्वेस्ट कर दिया, कल एक रूल चेंज हो गया और बंद ही हो गया, right? So stability in policy is very important with a long-term vision. I think we need to also open our mind about importing scrap quite a lot. So China imported a lot of material to get their manufacturing up to where they are. So I think we need to look at imports at scale. I think the compliance framework that the government has set up is very robust in terms of its nomenclature. कि जो उन्होंने बोला है, but the implementation is not very robust at the micro level. So जो अनएथिकल चीजें लोग कर रहे हैं, मान के चलो कि इम्प्रॉपर प्रोसेसिंग होता है वेस्ट का, एंड अगेन इट्स अ फंक्शन ऑफ कॉस्ट, राइट? सो If we are bidding for a contract and someone else is bidding for a contract, we know that at this rate it is not possible to do that, right? So we know that they're going and dumping it somewhere. We know they're going and burning it somewhere. But in a effort to save costs, right? Even companies or governments, so they take the wrong decision. So, while cost is a factor, the implementation of rules has to be very, very stringent. Then industry will formalize. And when an industry formalizes and you get good people to work in an industry, ethics of the industry changes automatically.
All right. It was really an insightful conversation, and we really got a fair idea of what circular economy is and waste management initiatives by the government. And also, you're really doing a good job in right direction. Thank you so much for joining us in and
No, thank you so much
giving
for
us your
having me. And
time.
I think best of luck for your podcast as well. I think this is a great initiative, right, to educate people on the careers that they can have. And yes, I would just like to say again that, circular economy, product design, material science is going to have a great future. So whoever is watching this, and I hope this podcast reaches millions of people. So whoever is watching this, it's a great field. So do give it a thought. Do think of entering this field, and it'll be for the better of the world. Thank you so much for doing this also, and best of luck. Thank
Thank
you.
you.